My parents regret taking out a $170,000 loan in my name to pay for my golden brother's extravagant lifestyle, but it's too late to undo what I just did. My name is Jake, and I'm 23 years old. I thought I was finally getting my life together after graduating from college, landing a great internship, and for once, everything was going my way. But then everything fell apart, and one day I stopped and saw this email, $170,000 from the bank. And at first I thought, oh, maybe it's just another one of those generic notifications or whatever. But when I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. I owe $170,000. $170,000. I sit there staring at the screen thinking, there must be a mistake. How in the world could I owe that much my entire life? This number just doesn't make sense. I start going over everything in my head to try to figure out where this huge amount came from. Maybe they added an extra zero by mistake or something. But I'm just holding on for dear life at this point. So naturally, I start panicking. My mind is racing, trying to figure out what to do next. I knew I'd have some student debt, sure, but nothing even close to this. I thought I was being responsible, taking out just enough to cover what my scholarship didn't, working part-time at a cafe to keep my expenses low, and all that good stuff. So where the heck is this $170,000 coming from? I'm calm, but I'm already sweating. My mom answers the phone, and I try to explain the situation, but she's like, oh, don't worry. It's probably just a mix-up with the bank. We'll sort it out. I push a little harder, saying, no, Mom, this is serious, because I can tell she's not paying attention. Then she started talking about how they took out a loan in my name for my college expenses, but it shouldn't be that high. She tries to dismiss it, telling me not to worry, but I won't have any of that. I ask her directly, did you guys take out more than I needed? Did you take out the full amount just in case or something? And she stops talking. I can almost hear the gears turning in her head. She struggles to think of what to say next, but eventually she admits, well, we took out the full amount, but it was just to make sure you had enough if your scholarship didn't cover everything. I'm the one who can't explain why they would take out so much money when it wasn't necessary. I received a partial scholarship that covered a good portion of my tuition, and the remaining amount was covered by my job and some savings. So why did they take out $170,000? I keep asking questions. And finally, my mom says something like, well, your brother needed some help too. My brain kind of shut down at that point because my twin brother didn't even go to college. He was too busy pursuing his dream of becoming a model or something. So I'm sitting there trying to process the fact that they took out a loan in my name and gave him a portion of it. I'm upset, but I'm also confused. I mean, who does that? Does that explain why they put me in this situation? I start talking louder on the phone, asking her how much they gave him and why they didn't just take out a separate loan for him if he needed the money so badly. She keeps avoiding my questions, saying that we'll figure it out and that she wants to talk to me about it later. I tell her that we need to talk about this in person, and she reluctantly agrees. I hang up the phone and sit there for a while, trying to prevent myself from throwing something. It's like I thought I was doing everything correctly. And now I'm being blindsided by this massive debt that I didn't even know about. I spent the next few days in this strange haze, not knowing what to do. I mean, I couldn't just make $170,000 magically disappear. When the weekend arrived, I finally decided to go to my parents' house to talk about this face to face. I'm hoping that perhaps there was a mistake and we can resolve this, but deep down, I know that's probably not the case. When I arrive at their house, the first thing I notice is how normal everything looks. My parents are sitting in the living room, and I can tell by the way they're acting that they know what's coming. I sit down and get right into it. No small talk or anything. I need to know what's happening with this loan. I say, trying to keep my voice steady, and my dad sighs and begins telling me how they didn't intend for things to go this way and that they were trying to do what was best for both of us. But that's not good enough for me. I press them for details, asking how much they took out, how much they gave to Evan, and why they didn't just tell me about this from the beginning. My dad gets defensive and says they always try to treat us equally, but after what seems like hours of back and forth, they finally admit that they gave Evan $80,000 of the loan money to help him with his career. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Evan didn't even go to college, and now I'm left to deal with a debt that is more than double what I should owe. I asked them why they didn't take out a loan in his name, but they kept coming up with excuses like his grades weren't good enough, they didn't have any other assets to use as collateral, etc. My parents don't take it well. So I just tell them straight out that I'm not paying a cent more than what I owe for my tuition. If Evan wants to spend $80,000 on anything, that's his responsibility, not mine. My mom then goes on to say that I'm the one stuck with this giant debt because they decided to help Evan without even asking me. I tell them that they either need to figure out how to pay that $80,000 or Evan does, and I'm not going to be the one to bear that burden. By the time I leave their house, I'm even more frustrated than I was before, feeling like my entire world has been turned upside down, and I have no idea what to do next. I try to calm down, but I can't get rid of the frustration. It's like no matter how hard I try to do the right thing, I keep getting let down, and now I have to figure out how to deal with this massive debt without giving up. Okay, so after that disastrous conversation with my parents, I'm sitting in my apartment just stewing. There's no way I'm just going to sit back and accept that I've got this $170,000 debt hanging over my head because my parents decided to prioritize even. I know I need to go back and confront them directly, but I want to make sure I have all the facts before I do. I spent the next few days researching everything I could about student loans, how they operate, what my rights are, and all that stuff. Honestly, it's overwhelming. I decided to pay my parents another visit because they took out a lot more money than they needed to, and they did it without me understanding what was going on. This time, I'm going in with a plan. I'm not just going to let them talk circles around me. I need answers, and I need them to understand that this is serious, that I'm not their piggy bank, and that I'm not going to be stuck paying off a debt that I didn't even benefit from. When I get to their house, everything seems normal again, which only aggravates me further. It's like they live in a bubble where nothing is wrong, while I'm out there worrying about my financial future. They're sitting in the living room watching TV like everything is fine. So I take a deep breath and sit down opposite them, trying to keep my cool, and they both look at me as though they know what's coming, but aren't thrilled about it. When I get to the part where I ask them why they didn't just take out a separate loan for even if he needed money so badly, my dad finally speaks up and says something like, well, you have to understand your brother wasn't exactly in a position to get a loan on his own. His grades weren't great, and we didn't want him to start his adult life with that kind of burden. So instead, you decided to put that burden on me. Dad pauses the TV, and my mom just sighs like this whole thing is such a burden on them. My mom's face goes pale, and she begins to cry, but I don't let that get to me. She starts with the whole, we did this for the family speech, saying that they were just trying to make sure Evan had a chance to succeed just like I did. But I respond, asking her how giving Evan $80,000 to blow on who knows what is the same as what I had. My dad gets defensive now and starts talking about how they've always tried to support both of us equally, and that they didn't mean for it to turn out like this. She doesn't have a good response, so she just starts crying more. My dad naturally tried to defend her, saying that I was being too harsh and that I didn't understand the pressure they were under. But what about the pressure I was under now? We keep going back and forth like this for what seems like forever, and they keep trying to justify what they did, and I keep shutting down their excuses. I'm getting more and more frustrated, but I'm trying to keep my cool, but it's exhausting when it feels like they're just not listening. Eventually, I decide to change tactics, telling them that if they don't pay back the $80,000, I'll have to take legal action. My dad's eyes widen, and my mom looked like she was about to break down. They beg me not to do anything drastic, saying that it will ruin everything, the family, if I go down that path. But I'm done with their guilt trips, so I tell them that they either need to find a way to pay back that money, or I'll have no choice but to protect myself because I can't afford to let this debt ruin my life just because they chose to prioritize even over me. Mom finally breaks down in tears and says that they'll try to find a solution, but I can tell she's just saying that to calm me down. My dad is still shocked that I'd even consider taking legal action against them, but he stops arguing, probably realizing that I'm serious. I get up to leave, and as I'm leaving, my mom calls me to ask if I'm going to follow through with this. I just turn around and say that if it comes down to it, yes, I will, and then I leave without looking back. As I'm driving home, I start to feel this strange mix of emotions. I'm upset, but I'm also sad because I didn't want this to happen. What other option do I have? My parents put me in a terrible situation, and now I have to figure out how to get out of it. It's tough, but I know I have to do what's right for me. By the time I get back to my apartment, I'm emotionally drained, so I just collapse on the couch and stare at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. I know I'm in for a long fight, and I'm not sure how it will turn out, but I'm prepared for it. I start thinking about what I need to do to protect myself legally, how I'm going to keep my head above water financially, and other things, but mostly I'm just tired. I didn't expect this to be easy, but I didn't think it would be this difficult either. As I lie there, I realize that this is only the beginning. There's a long road ahead, and I'm going to have to stay strong if I want to move on. But at least now I know what I'm up against, and I'm not going to back down no matter what. After that confrontation with my parents, I realized that I couldn't just sit around and let this mess be fixed by them. If I've learned anything from it, it's that they're not exactly the take charge type. I decided that I needed to take matters into my own hands and figure out what happened with this loan. especially since half of it was used to fund Evan's parties or whatever else he did with it. I know it's not particularly exciting, but I'm desperate, and I start gathering all the paperwork I can find. I have loan agreements, bank statements, emails, and everything else. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for, but as I go through all of this, I start to notice things that don't add up. For example, I have college bills that show my tuition fees, but they don't match the amounts on the loan documents. It's frustrating because it's becoming clear that my parents actually took out a lot more money than they needed to, and they didn't even tell me about it. What frustrates me, though, is that when I was 18, I had no idea how all of this worked. I mean, who knows about loans and bank accounts when you're just trying to figure out how to be an adult? I trusted them, but I didn't even think twice about it. This was a big mistake because they had me sign over access to my bank account so they could manage my funds while I was in college. At the time, it didn't seem like a big deal because I thought they were just trying to help me and make sure I didn't overspend or anything. But now that I'm looking at these documents, I realize that they used that access to take out the extra $80,000 without even asking me. I feel like I've been misled because they knew I didn't understand this stuff, and they took advantage of that to do what they wanted. I'm getting more and more upset, but I also feel deeply hurt because these are my parents who are meant to look out for me, and they've put me in this difficult situation. If anything, it just makes me more determined to find a way out of this mess. I started looking up information online to see if there was any way to challenge what they did. I know it's a long shot, but I have to try. I've learned that it's complicated and that there is a time limit. I'm worried that too much time has passed, but I keep researching, and I'm also thinking about what I'm going to do about Ivan. He's been avoiding responsibility while I've been dealing with all of this mess, and I'm not okay with that. I decide I'm going to confront him directly. I'm not going to let my parents shield him from the consequences of his actions. I want to know what he did with the money, and I want to see if there's any chance that he'll step up and help pay it back. I know it's unlikely, but I have to try. So one night I decide to wait for him. He usually returns home late, like after midnight, so I make coffee and wait in the kitchen. My parents are already asleep. It's the ideal time to catch him. When his car finally pulls into the driveway, my heart starts racing, but I'm prepared for whatever happens. I try to keep things lighthearted at first, offering him coffee, and we start talking about random topics like schoolwork and other things. I can tell he's not suspicious, which is good because he's always been the type to avoid conflict, so he probably thinks this is just a casual conversation. Finally, I brought up the loan and asked him if he knew how much trouble I was in because of the money our parents gave him. He looks at me as if he doesn't understand, which frustrates me even more because I lay it all out for him, and he just sits there looking increasingly confused. When he finally says, "What money?" I didn't get $80,000. I lost it. I raise my voice and tell him that our parents took out a large loan in my name and gave it to him. He sits there looking blank, and then he finally says, "Oh, I thought they just gave me some money to help with stuff." I can't believe this guy. I ask him what he did with the money, and he just shrugs. I don't know, and he responds, "I guess I spent it on like trips and going out with friends, the usual." Are you serious? I can't even begin to express how furious I am at this point. I started yelling at him, telling him that he must repay it, that it's his responsibility. He looks at me like I'm overreacting. It's not my fault that mom and dad gave me the money. I didn't ask for it. At that point, I realize that he doesn't even feel bad about it. He doesn't care that I'm the one who will suffer as a result of his actions. I tell him that I'm not paying a single cent of that $80,000, and if he doesn't figure out how to pay it back, I'm going to take legal action. I storm out of the kitchen, not even bothering to say goodnight because I'm so angry that I can't think clearly. How did I get into this mess? How did I end up with a brother who doesn't care? How did I get stuck with parents who think it's okay to use me like this? I return to my apartment and collapse onto my bed, feeling exhausted. But even though I'm exhausted, I can't sleep because I can't stop thinking about the conversation in my mind, trying to figure out what I should do next. I know I can't let this go, but I'm not sure how to proceed. One thing is for certain, though. If my family believes they can just walk all over me, they're in for a serious wake-up call. I'm not backing down, and I'm not giving up. It's time. After that whole incident with Ivan, I'm back at my apartment trying to calm down, and I feel like I've been punched in the gut. No matter how much I try to make sense of it, it keeps getting worse. Evan's acting like it's no big deal, and I'm the one left holding the bag. I'm beginning to feel like I'm fighting this battle alone, and it's exhausting, But the thing is that I'm not the type to just roll over and let people walk all over me. If they think I'm going to pay off this $170,000 without a fight, they're seriously mistaken. I'm just reacting to everything they throw at me, so I need to take charge, set some boundaries, and make it clear that I'm not playing around anymore. I decide to give my parents one last chance to make things right before I take things to the next level. I'm done with the back and forth, the excuses, and the guilt trips. They either fix this, or I'll have to do something drastic. I know it's risky, but at this point I give them a call and tell them I'm coming over. My mom sounds hesitant, like she knows something's going on. But I just say we need to talk, and I'll be there soon. I'm trying to control my emotions, but I'm anxious because I don't know how they'll react, but I know I have to do this. When I get to their place, it's the same old routine. They're in the living room watching TV, acting like nothing's wrong, so I sit there. I take a deep breath and try to think of the best way to begin. I know I can't come off as aggressive right away, or they'll just shut down, so I start calmly, outlining the situation again and explaining how serious this is. My mom, predictably, gets all emotional, saying that they never intended for things to get this bad and that they were just trying to help Evan, that they thought I could handle it. I've heard it all before, and to be honest, I'm tired of hearing it. I cut her off and tell her that this isn't about Evan anymore, but rather that they put me in an impossible situation and expect me to handle it. Then I drop the bombshell and tell them that I'll take legal action if they don't return the $80,000 they took out for Evan. I've looked into it, and I know I have a case. The room fell silent, and my mom looked like she was about to cry again, but this time I could see the panic in her eyes. My dad is the first to speak, and he's trying to sound reasonable by asking if there's any way we can work this out without the law getting involved. But I'm done with negotiations. I tell them that this is their mess, and they need to clean it up, and I'm not going to ruin my life because they decided to gamble on Evan's future. My mom began pleading with me, stating that they didn't have the money, that they were already struggling, and that taking this to court would destroy our family. I almost feel sorry for her, but then I remember all the stress and anxiety she's caused me. Because they were unable to be honest with me from the beginning, I stood my ground and told them that I'd give them 2 weeks to come up with a plan to repay the money. If they didn't, I'd file a lawsuit. I'm tired of being the only one who has to make sacrifices in this family, and my dad is getting upset now. He accuses me of being unreasonable, saying that I'm tearing the family apart over money, but I'm not letting him guilt trip me this time. The conversation continues back and forth like this for a while, but I don't back down. I keep reminding them that this is their responsibility, not mine. Eventually, my dad said that they'd see what they could do, but he was obviously frustrated, and my mom is still crying, but I don't have the energy to comfort her. I know that sounds harsh, but I've been pushed to the limit. I leave their house feeling exhausted, but also relieved because I know I've done everything I can to give them a chance to make things right. If they don't, I'll have to follow through on my threat. It's not what I want, but it's what I have to do. Over the next few days, I keep waiting for my phone to ring so they'll call me and tell me that they figured something out, but all I get are a few texts from my mom pleading with me to change my mind. She tells me how difficult this is for them and that they're worried about what will happen to the family. But I don't budge. I just keep reminding her of the deadline. 2 weeks. That's all they have. As the days pass, I begin preparing for the worst. I gather all the documents I can find, print out copies of emails, bank statements, and anything else that might support my case if this goes to court. I even spoke with a lawyer to make sure I'm prepared for whatever comes next. It feels strange to me that I'm getting ready for a battle against my own family, but I know it's what I have to do. I can tell that my friends and girlfriend are worried about me, and they keep asking if I'm sure I want to go through with this. It's a fair question, after all. Who wants to sue their parents? But I keep telling them the same thing. If I ignore this, I'll be paying for it for the rest of my life. Finally, the 2-week deadline comes around, and I haven't heard from my parents. I'm not backing down, so I text my mom one last time, reminding her of the deadline and informing her that if I don't hear back from them by the end of the day, I'll be filing the lawsuit that night. It's a strange mixture of emotions, including anger, sadness, fear, and a strange sense of relief. I've done everything possible to give them a chance, so whatever happens next is on them. The following morning, I wake up to a text from my mom. It's only a few lines long, but it tells me everything I need to know. We're working on getting the money together. Please don't do anything just yet. We'll talk soon. It's not exactly the resolution I was hoping for, but at least I know they're taking me seriously. I respond to her, telling her that they have another week to come up with a concrete plan. If they do, I'll postpone filing the lawsuit. If they're just stalling, I won't hesitate to proceed with it. I'm hoping they'll do the right thing, but I'm not holding my breath either way. A few days go by, and I hear nothing from my parents, and it's driving me crazy. I keep checking my phone for a text, a call, or anything else, but it's difficult when I feel like everything is hanging in the balance. I start thinking about how this is affecting my relationship with them, how it's falling apart, and how there's probably no going back to how they treated me. But it's a lot to process. My dad calls me out of the blue, and I'm already half asleep when my phone rings. He starts raising his voice at me and goes on about how I'm hurting the family and how I'm being selfish, saying things like, "Do you want to be the reason your mother ends up in the hospital and Evan's already struggling, and now you want to make things worse for him?" It's like every emotional appeal he's ever used, but it's more intense this time, like he's desperate. I let him finish before I speak, trying to think of a way to respond calmly, but it's difficult, so I just tell him, "Dad, this isn't about breaking the family apart, but about what's fair. You all put me in a situation where I have to stand up for myself, and that's what I'm doing." He doesn't like it though, and he keeps saying I'm being unreasonable and that I'm causing stress for no good reason. How can I trust them after everything they've done? They've misled me, taken advantage of me, and now they're trying to make me feel bad for setting boundaries. I tell them that I've given them more than enough chances to make things right, and that if they don't come up with the money, I'll have no choice but to move forward with my plans. He gets even more upset, but I interrupt him, saying, "Dad, this conversation isn't going anywhere. I've made my decision, and I'm not backing down." He hangs up on me, leaving me staring at my phone, feeling like I've just been hit emotionally. It's awful, but I know I did the right thing. I can't keep allowing them to pressure me into doing what they want. This is my life, and I have to take control of it. The following morning, I wake up to a stream of texts from my mom. Some of them are her trying to reason with me. Others are more guilt trips, and some are just her pleading with me to stop all this. She says things like, "We're your parents, and we would never do anything to hurt you. And Evan's your brother. He needs your support, not your frustration." I text her back, reminding her that I'm still waiting for them to come up with a plan to repay the money. I told her that I'd take action in a few days. She replied with more of the same and said I needed to be patient. It's frustrating, but at this point, I'm not surprised. I'm starting to think they never intended to pay me back. They just wanted to see if they could wear me down until I gave up. A few more days pass, and I'm growing more anxious. The deadline is coming, and I need to be ready to follow through. Evan surprisingly has been quiet. When he finally calls, he's not raising his voice like Dad, but I can tell he's upset. He starts by saying he's sorry that things have gotten this bad and that he wishes he could fix it. I'm skeptical, but let him speak. He says he's thought about what I said and admits he should have been more careful with the money. He says he's barely making ends meet and doesn't have any way to repay it. I tell him I appreciate his honesty, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm stuck with the debt. I say if he can't pay it back, then our parents should. He sighs and says he'll talk to them, but I can tell he's not hopeful. We end the call on a tense note. The next day, I get a message from my lawyer asking if I'm ready to proceed with the lawsuit. This is the moment of truth. Either my parents come up with the money or I'm taking legal action. I send my mom a final text reminding her of the deadline and letting her know that if I don't receive the money by the end of the day, I'll be filing in the morning. It feels unreal, like I'm living in a situation that doesn't even feel real anymore. Just as I'm about to lose hope, I get a short but direct text from my dad saying they've managed to pull together some money and will pay me back in installments. There's no apology. It's not the ideal outcome, but at least they're finally taking me seriously. I replied that I'd accept the payments, but I'd be monitoring everything. If they miss a single payment, I'll file the lawsuit. He agrees. It feels like I'm getting a piece of my control back, but it's bittersweet. I had to fight for this, and it's likely my relationship with my family will never be the same again. But at least now I know I stood up for myself. The first few payments arrive, and I start thinking maybe we're getting somewhere. I hold on to that hope tightly. I even started to think that maybe, just maybe, things can be repaired with time. But that hope doesn't last long. The next payment never comes. I kept refreshing my account, thinking it must be a delay or a mistake. But as days turn to weeks, it becomes clear they've stopped paying. I feel like they've strung me along again. I begin writing a text to my dad, calmly outlining that they've broken their agreement. I give them one final chance to explain, but make it clear that if I don't hear back by the end of the day, I'm filing the lawsuit. No response. I waited all day. Then finally, a message from my mom apologizing, saying they've hit a rough patch financially. I text back, firmer this time. I tell her I've waited long enough, that I've been more than fair, and that if I don't have the money by tomorrow, I'm moving forward. I couldn't sleep that night. Everything feels overwhelming, but the next morning, I get up, make coffee, and start gathering the paperwork. I'm just about to head to my lawyer's office when my mom calls. She's crying, begging me not to go through with it, promising they'll figure something out. I listen, and for a moment, I feel that guilt again, but then I remember how many times they've let me down. I tell her I'm sorry, but I've already given them enough chances. She keeps pleading until she eventually gives up. Later that day, I meet with my lawyer and begin the process. It's heavy signing those documents, but I know I have to. Over the next few days, the reactions pour in, family, friends, and everyone seems to have something to say. Some support me, others don't. I try not to let it affect me, but it's hard. I remind myself I deserve better. I need to take care of myself, even if it means leaving people behind. Weeks into the lawsuit, my lawyer tells me my parents want to settle. I'm not surprised, but there's some relief. We'll meet at my lawyer's office. My parents look worn down. My dad looks frustrated, like he can't believe I made it this far. The negotiations are tense. My lawyer does most of the talking. My parents tried to settle for less, but my lawyer held firm. Eventually, they agree. It's not a celebration, but at least I'll get what I'm owed. Evan doesn't even show up. My mom tries to speak to me afterward, but I tell her it's too late. A few days later, the money arrives. I paid off the loan. I'm debt-free, but it doesn't feel the way I thought it would. There's an emptiness now. My internship became a full-time job. I'm looking at new apartments, maybe a new city. I wonder if I did the right thing. But then I remember how they treated me. Doing the right thing doesn't always feel good. It just feels necessary. This whole thing taught me that I'm stronger than I thought. I don't have to keep fighting for people who wouldn't do the same for me. For the first time in a long time, I'm okay with that. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm finally living my life for me, and maybe that's the best outcome I could have hoped for.